pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Looking for additions or deletions to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Got a motion and a second on the agenda. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Our next item of business this morning is going to be employee recognitions. I'm going to turn this over to our County Administrator, Matt LeBlanc, for a new hire introduction and a retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd ask Derek and Jackie to come forward, please.
Morning, Derek.
Morning. This is Jackie. She's the new account technician in Health and Human Services. Started July 31st. Happy to have her. She has some past experience doing some medical billing for health partners and also some accounts payable and receivable for an electric, fire, and safety company. So,
Wow, good morning.
Welcome
Good morning,
aboard.
welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. So is this going to help you out a little bit? Get more numbers for somebody else to pass along?
yes, yeah, July was a little busy for us, so it's nice to have another body and be back to full staff. So.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You're welcome anytime, Jackie.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd ask if I get my sheriff, Sean Larson, to join me along with Kim Lillamo, please. This is one of those bittersweet days. It is. Next Monday. But today marks our opportunity to formally bid farewell to Kim. And before I get too carried away, I'll turn it over to the sheriff. Let me give you a microphone so they can hear you there. Sean.
Is this on? Okay. So Kim's been with us for a number of years. I think he started back in 1997. Took a little break around 2002 and then came back and been working with us since. So with the Sentence to Serve program, 6 years, I believe. She's been our crew leader. She's done a phenomenal job. I get a lot of emails and I get a lot of phone calls that I pass on to the board. We pass on to Kim. Everybody is happy to see Kim because she does such good work, and as well as with the crew. Just recently, I was in the Uppsala Heritage Days for a parade, and the mayor came up to me, and the first thing he said is, "Boy, I love your Sentence to Serve crew. I love Kim, I love your crew. They did a phenomenal job." They did painted the curbs, they painted the fire hydrants, they painted the crosswalks. And it sounds like you guys got a little bit of rain, so you got to go back and finish the crosswalks, correct? He was going to finish. Okay. But anyway, that's what she does, and that's what the crew does, and it's all positive vibes. And like I said, they love the program, they love Kim, and so I just want to thank you for all your years in making Morrison County shine, I guess. You do a great job, so appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean. And like the sheriff said, Kim's been here on and off for well over 25 years, and employees like Kim is what makes us special. Not only is she a great neighbor, but she's a great teammate. And Sentence to Serve has really been kind of Kim's wheelhouse, but I think just evident to those that are here today, it goes far beyond that, your impact. Your impact to those that you supervise and you help through that, and probably some trying times in their life when others have abandoned them and maybe forgot about them. I see you out here loading up, getting the crew ready, and it's just different, right? It's different when they can get out and contribute and do something for the community. She leads that effort. Above and beyond that, there's times when the program isn't staffed. And I went out to the annex not so long ago, and there's Kim detailing out the vehicle because she wants to look right and be professional. And even if she doesn't have those folks with her, she's not afraid to roll up the sleeves and get it done herself. But again, to the people in here, Family, thanks for being here. It's awesome for this day, but this goes beyond your impact. You touch them, you've helped them, and you are an example for others to follow. We really appreciate that. We're proud of you, and we're very, well, that's part of it. You might make me cry too. But congratulations. You are what Morrison County is all about. We are resident-centric. You do embody trust, again, in your day-to-day, and obviously always striving to do better and make us what we are here in the county. So thank you for that, and thank you for the program, and thank you for your service to the county. I'd ask the board if they'd like to make any comments before I turn it over to Kim.
Thank you, Matt. I'll turn to the board. Comments? Commissioner Lemire.
I just want to say thank you for your years of service. You've been a wonderful asset for Morrison County and its citizens, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair,
Please, go ahead.
and again, we see her on the road, out and about with everybody, painting the signs there at Platte River Days. So again, all these little things that you do to help the community, to the people that are in, coming out and help, I thank you very much and enjoy your next years ahead of you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Casper.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Kim, I'd just like to personally say thank you too. You know, you're there for these people that have just about given up on life, and you give them hope. Thank you for being there.
Thanks.
Makes all the difference in the world. Yes, God bless you.
Commissioner Blaine, you can hardly contain yourself.
Can I? Miss Lilamo brings us. This is a bittersweet day because you're a member of this family that has elevated the respect of others of this family for you and the work that you do and how you do it. You've elevated the level of respect for this organization as a whole because of your leadership in your role. But I think, more importantly, you elevate the level of respect for the people that work with you in that role. And I think that may not be understood to the degree that it should be by a lot of the people in the public. I hope that your retirement treats you the same way that you've earned that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blaine. Kim, I probably have known you as long, or maybe longer than anybody in this room. Quite honestly, and I know you know this, it's because of you why you're where you are right now at this moment. You've done nothing but lead by example from day one. And it is through leading by example that creates that element of sentence to serve. You took over some pretty big shoes. He's in here somewhere. I saw him this morning, Mr. Brummer. You took over some pretty big shoes, and you continued what Mr. Brummer left over, or left. You took over and you led it by 100% example. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Kim, on behalf of Morrison County, the Board of Commissioners, the supervisors and then staff, we want to wish you and Scott the best of luck as you start your next chapter. You've earned this, you've deserved it, and now we hope you go enjoy it. We have a small token of appreciation. It says, thank you for your dedicated service and for making Morrison County a place that our residents are proud to call home. You will be missed.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
3 sheriffs, 4 jail administrators like it's time to say goodbye. Thank you.
Sean, come in here, would you, real quick? Hold. Now, if you go, can you get a photo with the board, please? Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Go up there. I got you.
Where you want? Oh, jeez.
Ladies, would you go up there for our next photo? Family? Yep. Hold tight. We're gonna have the family come up there real quick. Go ahead.
3 of the 5 of my favorites.
Yes.
I'll stand for this. Thank you.
All right, one more hand, please. Thank you, Kim. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Congrats. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Bittersweet.
See ya. All right, that's going to move us back into our agenda. Our number 5 on our agenda is our approval of our consent agenda. I will look to the board if there's any item on our consent agenda that anyone would like to have pulled for further discussion. If not, what I will do is I will look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the approval of our consent agenda? And hearing none, gentlemen, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Wincher?
Aye.
Blaine?
Aye.
Casper? And myself, Commissioner Jelinski, as an aye vote, that motion passes. We'll move on to item number 6, Child Support Awareness Month Proclamation. And here they come. More chairs? Maybe we do need a few more chairs.
I
just wanted to say,
Are we all going to stay? Or
we're
are
just
we?
gonna take a picture when we're done and.
Okay, we can do that. That's fine.
I'd just like to say, this is my team minus Courtney Pop, she's on vacation, so, and.
Introduce your
I'm proud
team.
of them. Great, Juliette Purdy, she's a support enforcement aide, Angel Tresco, support enforcement aide, Joy Leidenfrost, child support officer, thank you. Angie Loscheider, child support officer, Nancy Zachmeyer, child support officer, and Trina Ebinger, child support officer as well. So I'm very proud of them. They do a great job and lucky to have them here.
Absolutely.
Hello. Okay, so whereas Child Support Awareness Month reminds us that children need the emotional and financial support of both parents to reach their full potential, and whereas Morrison County Child Support staff have a direct impact on helping families meet children's needs. Child support staff help families work towards becoming and remaining self-sufficient and financially stable by creating and modifying child support orders and collecting and dispersing child support on behalf of the children. And whereas Morrison County Child Support staff maintain very high standards of job performance, and their duties require them to be well-versed in many areas, including the legal system. Whereas for every dollar spent on Minnesota's child support program, the state collected on average $2.91. Morrison County's average is well above the state at $4.22 collected for every dollar that's spent. Whereas during Child Support Awareness Month, all Minnesotans are encouraged to look to the future of our state and our children and to work together to ensure their success. So therefore, you, the members of the Morrison County Board of Commissioners, hereby proclaim August 2023 as Child Support Awareness Month in Morrison County.
Thank you. Very nice job. You can do that anytime you want. You can just bring her on. She can do a very nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look to the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Okay. Discussion. Anything?
Thank you for all your work.
It was all said. You said everything that you needed to say, and
Thank you.
and thank you for that. And congratulations and thank you to the team, because this isn't a one-person job. This is a team atmosphere. I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. And did you want to have a photograph up here?
That's what we have done in the
Yes,
past.
please. Let's bring it on.
Why don't, maybe the board stays seated, we'll just have them following behind you?
Yeah, sure.
This down, there we go. So let's see, we get it in the middle.
You gotta show off your.
Yeah, your proclamation, hold
There
your
we go.
proclamation, there we go.
Yeah.
Don't be bashful, just get it in.
You gotta get them centered there.
That's Tabitha's rule.
So more
Gotta have another one over here, come on.
Yeah.
You're fine. Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you, ladies.
Enjoy the summer.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, God bless you gals.
Yeah,
Keep up the good work.
always.
And there, item number 7 on our agenda this morning is Crookneck Lake. And Dan is with us this morning from Crookneck. Good morning. Please take a chair, speak into a microphone, introduce yourself. If you would be so kind, Dan, as to tell us who you are, what you're here for, and carry on.
Okay, I'm Dan Sanger. I'm from the Crookneck Lake Lid, and I'll be giving you our annual report, which is a requirement to the county board. And then at the end, I'll be asking for for you to do a motion approving 3 items for us.
Very good.
Okay, to begin with, I'd call this kind of a transitional year for the lake. It continues to recede. The water's going down. We had a long winter, a lot of ice. It came in early, went out late. So it's different weeds this year. And then a lot of new people on the lake, and so different expectations. So for the lid, it's been kind of a different expectation, a lot of transitioning for us. And then we've been having a lot of, and as the water's been going down, we're having issues with these high thrust boats. They come on, they create wakes in the back, and I'll get into that a little bit later as we
Sure.
go through the report.
Sure.
So the first slide, this one here that you have, if you go way off, this is a repeat of last year's, but I had an IOU to you, and if you look at the tail that's way on the right-hand side, that's on, I think you have it on yours, there's a couple of dots there. We collected some hybrid milfoil last year for genetic testing, because and that would be a combination of, is it Eurasian water milfoil, which we don't want to have, we had some in the lake that we treated for, and northern milfoil, and sometimes you get a hybrid, and then you can also treat for that. We did genetic testing on those samples, they came back negative during the winter. And so, came back, it's northern milfoil. And so, it's a native, you don't need to treat it. We'll also collect some this year if we see any that have those features. And so that was good news for us. And so that was an IOU from the year from last year of the testing. And so if we go to the next slide, Matt. Sorry. This is what we said we were going to do last year, and that you approved in our performance plan. And so this was one of the items that was approved, and working up from the bottom, we've been managing the CLID. One of the items that we had do was to do this 5-year review. It's called an engagement plan, in which you go to a auditing firm. It's in Little Falls here, CPA, and they're supposed to do it every 5 years. We haven't done one since 2005 when we originated. You can talk to the state auditors, and they say, well, you're too small. It costs about $5,000 more than our budget. And they say, you can just put it off. But due to various things that have been occurring up in the area, they said, why don't you finally do it? So it caught up with us and the other lakes up there. And so we went ahead and did it this past year. They wanted one clarification on a policy. It was a travel. Our establishment order says if we travel and we go to a meeting, we follow what the county would do for reimbursement. They wanted a policy, what if you go out of state? Oh my God. So we said, well, if we travel to anything, out of state and in-state, we would still use the county's reimbursement policy for traveling to official meetings, as long as the board approves the members to travel to it. And so that was the one thing they identified, and we paid them almost $5,500.
Perfect.
And so we're done for the year on that. And then as you march up on that, on the water quality, we are having some issues on our water quality on the lake. They look at the clarity, they look at chlorophyll, and they look at total phosphorus. These are elements that could get into the water from runoff. We have been sitting for the last 10 years at 95 to 99% confidence that everything continues to improve. When RMB Labs does the statistical analysis, that's the laboratory that does the zebra mussel testing for the county. We send them 5 samples a year, 5 months worth, to locations, and they do statistical data on it. We're now down on some of them to 80% confidence level. What's causing that? Depends on your perspective, how you want to look at it. Could be the long winters, could be lower water, could be the high thrust boats that are going along and they push the propulsion down, stirs everything up, gets into the thermocline. So we don't know, but we're going to continue to watch that. But it is a concern of ours. We suspect it's the boats, but we can't prove it now. But the studies are being done by St. Anthony's Falls Lab with the University of Minnesota. When you talk to that group, and we're a member of the study group, when you talk to them, the hope is that they will go to the DNR and work with the DNR and the state legislature to come out with some rulings on it, instead of leaving it up to the individual lakes, because that's, how do you enforce it? You know, you can't even enforce 300 feet from the lake shore. And so it would become a nightmare on that. And then I think the next slide we can jump into, would be our treatment. So if we go down, that one right there. So we had 3 zones this year that came out to 6.9 acres that we're able to treat for curcumin. That was this spring. We were able to use Diquat again, which is the alternative herbicide than Aquathal K. I think we're pretty much locked into being able to use that as long as we stay in the Sauk Rapids district with the DNR. There is talk of moving some of our lakes into Crow Wing district manager. That will become troublesome because they will put us back in Aquathal K, which is much more expensive to use. And so as long as we stay in Sauk Rapids, we're considered a study lake. We're using Diquat right now, and we've been using it since 2019. And so hopefully we'll be able to continue using that. Last year we treated 10.9 acres, I think, in that range. This year we dropped down a little less. Same area, it's always that horseshoe, but this year 3 areas. It has to be a certain density before they'll allow you to treat the area. And so we had those 3 areas. Possibly less this year because of the high snowpack on the ice. Sunlight can't get through it, it grows during the winter. And so that would be that one. Next slide, Matt. This is a snapshot of our financials. Again, we're doing well. A few years ago, we were up to 98,000. We want to just whittle down. We're comfortable being around 90. This gives us the ability to have 2 very bad years of cost before we have a pucker factor, if you will. And so we're there. So we're comfortable here. I'll just point out, the levy of $40 gives us $5,400 expected, and so that's what we went for this year again, and I'll explain that in the next slide a little bit more, but cost-wise, we're doing well on our budget bottom line, reported to the members. So this is one of the slides I'll be asking you to approve at the end of the meeting. This is our performance plan for next year, what we're proposing to do. It's identical to the same thing we've been doing the last, since I've been doing this since 2009. Nothing changes. We're going to survey, treat, monitor, and manage the lake, monitor quality of the water. This looks like a busy slide, but I'll just really draw your attention to the 2 columns that are on, which would be on the left. The second one, which is estimated cost, when we explain this to our membership, and they're all there, this is what our levy needs to pay for. Because this is what we truly think is going to be our cost next year, what we're going to spend money on. The left to that is the proposed budget, which is the one we asked them to approve us to spend, and these are worst-case scenarios. Because, and really the big driver on that is the weed treatment. If we ever had to go back to Aquathol K, or if we had milfoil again, which we successfully treated in 19 and 20, and we haven't found it since then. And so if we don't find any more milfoil, we're good. If we have to go back to Aquathol K, it's gonna be very expensive. And so the membership approves the proposed budget line, which is the more expensive one, just so that we don't get our hands tied. But at the same time, we plan the levy for the lesser one because we don't want to have an increase over and over in time. And then the legal reserve is just there in case we have authority to go and get legal counsel should we need it down the road. And so that's really the two lines that we go by. And the next one, I think, is, and so we'll be asking you to approve the budget, the proposed budget, the more expensive one. And then the next line, or slide, is the levy. And the levy, the last 2 years have been kind of an interesting discussion because some of the membership will say, well, why don't we just make it higher, you know, so you've got plenty of money, you never have to worry. But we don't want to carry, as a board, we're real comfortable in being in that 90,000 range, 100,000, because that gives us 2 cycle years of worst case scenario. Because we get through one, and then the second one, by the time we levy and collect more money, we have time to recoup it. Otherwise, we're behind the 8 ball. And so $40 and the potential of getting a grant keeps us where we need to be. And so that's why we're requesting $40. And so some people said, well, you know, the board, we were comfortable going 30 or 40. The members, they wanted to keep it steady, same amount. They don't have to budget for it up and down. And they said, you know, what's the difference? $10 to them. And so it's pretty easy discussion. And so on your slide, if you, there, the action required, you're right there, Matt. I made an error, and this is where I made the error here, and I'll point it out to you. What we come here to request from you is that the board would, the commissioners would approve that 2023 needs to be a 2024. And then it's the 3 items. Our proposed performance plan, our budget, and then the annual levy of $40. And then any questions that I can answer from you.
Mr. Chair,
Please, go ahead, Commissioner Lemire.
I'll make a motion to approve the Crookneck Lids 2024 performance plan, the performance plan budget, and the levy of $40.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Like I told you, Mr. Chair, like I
Please.
told you earlier, what a great report you do. It's very detailed and easy to read and pretty easy to understand. So we appreciate that very much.
Very much right to the point.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Thank you. Further, Commissioner Winter?
Question I have, again, you mentioned that the water level is going down. Do you have any idea, like, did it drop an inch or 2 feet, or do you have any idea how
Oh,
much it dropped?
last year it dropped a foot,
Okay.
a little over a foot. This year it's dropped probably 16 inches so far. We're down to, right now, we're sitting at 15 and a half inches above the high water mark. And dropped an inch last week.
All right.
And if you study it over time, going back to the very beginning, I've been working with Mark Anderson, the DNR, or not DNR now. See if the DNR,
Yep.
the DNR.
Forestry, yep.
Forestry, and working with him. If you go back to his study, you know, the DNR's water levels, the vast majority of our years, we're above the high water level. And so we're now kind of transitioning that really is kind of an administrative mark for our lake, for setbacks purposes, as opposed to, there's a high water level, nobody has a low level though. And so it's just kind of a setback, and we're trying to figure out what is the right level that's good for the lake, because majority of the time, it's 8 to 10 inches above would be a low year. So right now, we're getting into that low range.
So gentlemen, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Do we have any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Please.
just a question for Dan. I'm wondering, does that coincide with Shamana at all, those levels? Do you see those coinciding at all, or it's totally different?
No, it's absolutely, we're related, and their engineer has distinguished in his reports that when they go down, we go down.
Okay.
It's just a question of, you know, if they were to, for example, they draw their lake down now, it could take up to a year before we'll draw down, because we use the same water table.
I see.
And so, for example, if we got 5 inches of rain today, we would see it, but within a week, it would be only an inch, because it's all gonna go into the ground table.
Okay.
Because right now, the ground table is low. It's all driven by the ground table.
Okay.
Gentlemen, further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Those in favor, Commissioner Casper,
Aye.
Lemire,
Aye.
Blaine,
Aye.
Wincher,
Aye.
myself, Commissioner Jelinski, is an aye vote, that motion passes. You're not going to get away that quick, Dan. That was the motion, we got that taken care of. Can you talk to the board just a little tiny bit more on, I forgot the word already, on these fancy boats with the surfing? What you're seeing in your estimation, doesn't matter, your estimation, and if there's anything that you have seen statewide as to, I don't want to use prevention, but I'm going to use that as a start-off word for you.
To describe it to you is, St. Anthony Falls has done 2 studies.
Okay.
They started out with the first study, which was 2 winters ago, because they reported them in the winter. So that summer, and they reported on it this past winter. So as the boats go this way, the thrust is, power goes this way.
Yep.
Waves go out that way.
Yep.
And they say that it takes at least 300 feet or more, but at least 300, and that's why you get that 300 setback that the sheriff does when the high water's, for a normal boat to dispel the waves. Then you get these high thrust boats, which they fill up with water, bilge, so that when they power forward, they tip down. And when they tip down, now they're pushing ahead. Instead of skipping along the top, if you have a bass boat, they push the water, creating a huge wave in the back, a wake, if you will. And then you surf, basically a surfboard that they're riding on as opposed to skis. And you start out, and they go very slow. So they're just moving along at a very slow pace, maybe 5 miles an hour. And as they're moving along, then they flip the rope forward, and it's all choreographed, and they surf back and forth, and big Bose speakers, so it's very loud. And they get scored. So if you go to Lake Minnetonka, they have these great big, shows going on, competitions, and they play the music, and it's all scored. So it's all choreographed to the music.
Okay.
Better score. And so the boat goes along like this, and it's pushing now down, and that's the secondary study. How much impact does it have? Well, they know it'll go down at least 15 feet minimum. And so the issue becomes, if you tying it to, say, my lake, water quality, if you've all dived into a lake before, it gets cold as you go down. That's the thermocline layer. So if you've got a layer here, which is warm, and then it gets cold, and then it's cold, very cold down here. That thermocline layer, all this stuff during the summer is decaying, but at that layer, it can't come above. So the nutrients are down here, nothing's up here, okay? And that keeps everything in check. The algae blooms and the amount of growth that some of these weeds can do and so forth. It's all in check because of the thermocline layer. As in the fall, we see it on the lake, and you see it in the summer, they talk about the flips. I don't know if you've heard of that before, where the lake will flip, it naturally flips, because the temperature on the top is different, so the whole lake goes like this. And when it does that, it brings that bottom nutrients up. So on Crookneck Lake, on my lake, in the fall, you'll get these big algae blooms. I mean, it'll just be huge. It looks like almost like a green-blue glop down there. And it'll be all over the bottom of the lake. It'll last about a week, 2 weeks, then it goes away. All temperature dependent, ambient air. And then once that's gone, then it's gone. But what's happening is the fear is, as these boats go along, it stirs up that thermocline, and now you're getting these blooms throughout the whole year. And that might be why our water quality is going away, because we're seeing it in the total phosphorus and the chlorophyll layers. And normally you get that nutrients is coming from wash off from the soil gets in from the rainfall, and then that allows everything to grow up, and then you see the algae blooms, and that's where you get the chlorophyll breeding. Well, now we may think we're getting it from these boats. But you also, now we're getting jet skis out there. And the jet skis, the newest version that the kids like to ride, I suppose adults too, but they call them the dancers, you know, and they go up there and it's almost like you're a ballerina. You get up on the tail end of them and they just dance all around, and they scoot all around the lake. And they get real close to each other, and they'll dance around each other and then scoot around. And that stirs up the bottom too, because all the thrust is directly down. Now Minnetonka, and that's a totally different scenario, because I think they got 13 or 14 municipalities. And so it's like their lid, but they're a consortium. They got a tremendous amount of power. Almost like a legislative power amongst them. And they banned these boats from coming within 300 feet of a shoreline. They can do it. And so they can't use them, but they also have very deep water, so it's not an issue. I have heard that Mille Lacs wants to totally ban them because they're worried about the habitat. In their fishery, they're just getting it under control, and they don't want stuff stirred up. So there's talk at Mille Lacs of trying to totally, because it's a relatively shallow lake. And so our concern is what's happening, you know, is it stirring it up? And I've heard the same stories from people that are, you know, they're on Alex and they're on Chaminade, and they create a huge wave. Now, when that wave comes across, it'll wash right across your whole dock. Now we're low, my dock's high, but last year when it would come across, I have pallets. You just flip the pallets right up. So I have to go back out and put the pallets in, and finally I just zip tied them down. But still, you get a big rock up. Some people would complain that it would pop their pontoons up and move their whole dock, because the waves are so big if they come real close. Because there is no enforcement of the 300 foot. The sheriff can't enforce it. He can just talk to them, but there's no enforcement. And so I think that's the concern that's out there. San Anthony Falls is doing the studies, and where it would go, I don't know. But there's a lot of people there's people mad about those boats, particularly now that the water is starting to go down. And at the rate we're going, we'll probably be down to that. We could very well get to 8 inches above this year. I don't know what rain will do.
Sure.
We only saw a 3-inch bounce with all the snowfall.
Oh, really?
It's all it went up was 3 inches, because it came up and then it went right into the groundwater.
Sure. So Dan, my question is that have you and/or anyone else on the lake, or have you heard from any other lake associations, if you will, or LIDs throughout the state of Minnesota, is the DNR taking any interest in any of this? Is the legislature taking any interest in this?
I know the DNR is monitoring what's happening at San Anthony Falls,
Okay,
because they're on the teleconference.
okay,
You know, there's a Zoom call. We have a guy that monitors it for us. We participate in it.
sure,
It's across the whole state, plus Wisconsin.
okay.
Very involved in Wisconsin, very involved in it. I could look at the membership list. I'm sure the DNR is involved in it. They're
Okay.
listening in on it, because there's a lot of, and it's a lot of, and they're getting a lot of their funding through associations. We can't give we can't give them lid money, but associations can't give them money.
Sure,
And so we funnel
excellent.
private money to them. And so, personally, I think the DNR, working with the legislation, Minnesota legislation, has to do something. It can't come from a lake. You know, and I don't know, if you guys passed a resolution and said, hey, you're banning them on front of these 4 lakes, how are you gonna enforce it?
Absolutely, you're 100% correct, I agree.
I don't know, so that's just my perspective on it. But I know that, people, it gets to be a rodeo out there at times.
I appreciate that, Dan. Thank you. You answered my question. I'll look to the board before you leave. Any further comments for Dan for Crookneck?
Great report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. See you next year.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
Thank you, Dan.
Have a good day now.
You too.
2.
All right, next item of business is going to be Miss Amy and Land Services. Good morning, Miss Amy.
one item for you today, and that is to consider the conditional use permit to expand to a Tier 2 beef and poultry feedlot. This application was considered by the Planning Commission and submitted by Dwayne and Rebecca Klisch. They did recommend approval with 3 conditions, and the 3 conditions are no stacking of beef manure pen pack shall occur on unsuitable soils. Rendering or composting of beef mortalities within the stacking slab shall be implemented. No burial of beef mortality shall occur on site. And a 50-foot wide grass buffer shall be planted and maintained around both poultry barns.
I'll make a motion with the 3 conditions.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, gentlemen, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Bing,
Chair.
bang, boom.
Yeah, that's
Thank
all
you,
I
Amy.
have for you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you,
you.
Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
All right, and our next item of business is going to look to the administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 3 items for the board's consideration this morning, or just, and one is information. So the information piece I'll start with is next week on the 22nd of August. Nate Bertram, our Director of Health and Human Services, is hosting an opioid discussion meeting at the Initiative Foundation. That meeting is from 4:30 until 6. We've talked about that several times here. The reason I'm bringing it up today is because we published it in the paper originally, saying here in the boardroom, and then when the location was changed as to not conflict with the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment that evening, we moved it to the Initiative Foundation, and when we went to publish it last week, failed to make the change of location. So just to clarify for anybody who's listening out there, the location for that meeting will be the Initiative Foundation. It was published last week's record here in the boardroom. We'll have staff here that evening to route folks that are looking to attend to the Initiative Foundation. But one more time, just want to confirm the location of that meeting is at the Initiative Foundation. And the purpose of that meeting is to elicit or solicit input from stakeholders. One, we're required to host this meeting as the fiduciary responsible agency. Of our opioid dollars, we're required to host an opportunity for all municipalities to provide input, and that is what that meeting is for. So Nathan can get input from other leaders in the community on where to invest these opioid dollars. Any questions on that? Okay.
Questions for Matt?
Second item, received notification yesterday, and unfortunately, we are seeing a bit of a pattern here of another corrections officer that is resigning from their position. So again, don't need a motion or a resolution for that, but vice board's authorization to post for that position. So again, it's backfill of an existing position that will become vacant due to a resignation. So unless there are any concerns, we'll move forward with filling that position. Okay, none heard. And the last one, next week, we are scheduled to have our first budget committee meeting of 2023 to discuss the 2024 budget. That isn't the first time it's being discussed, but it will be for the committee. Kurt and I have met with nearly all budget holders. We will have them finished up this week and ready to come before the committee next Tuesday after the planning session. I come to you today to just propose some guidance on who you want to hear from, and absolutely feel free to amend as you'd like. Kurt and I have sat down with all but just a couple to this point, but and the most significant change for anybody is on the labor line of the budget, which is not due to the department head. So first off, I'm assuming the board wants any department that's looking to increase their staff to come before the budget committee. That would be the first condition I would propose. The second is any department or budget holder that has a greater than 3% to their non-labor line. And the third condition would be any department looking for a single purchase that causes their levy ask to increase by more than 3%. So and that's their total levy ask, labor and non-labor. So if those conditions, and of course, after you hear from everybody, we can call others back and have a subsequent meeting. But as I'm trying to pare this down, I think there's about 13 or 14 different budget holders within the county. Try to narrow down the focus of what the budget committee would like to hear from.
Gentlemen?
Those sounded perfect to me, those examples that you gave.
Okay.
The only thing I would change is that I think we should make our time earlier than 10:30. That's the only advice I would,
We'll publish it for 9 then. Yeah, thank you.
because
We'll go
sometimes
straight
stuff is
in,
done
yeah.
in 30 minutes. Sometimes.
That's right.
Mr. Chair, question I have for Matt, or any, for external, businesses or, nonprofits or whatever, if they come and are asking for increase, I would like to have them here also.
Yep.
Just because, but again, we've had a couple that never show up, but then we just give them their dollar value, whatever. I think like this is what's the, not the Initiative Foundation.
Fairgrounds once.
Fairgrounds, Motley used to,
Motley,
we used to
we
give Motley,
yeah,
but we don't
yeah.
give them anymore. But there's always been a couple, I don't know if that's just for discussion, but I know there's one that's asking for an increase, and I would like to hear the board hear from them.
There was one, I saw in preliminary budget come in, and I'll share. I reviewed the soil and water ask, and they are one that's already scheduled to come before the board. So as those come in, again, if there's an increase, then we're asking them to come before the committee as well.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
if I may, for any of those nonprofits, or I will say any entity outside of the departments within the organization that are asking or in the past have received funding from the county as part of the budget process, that for us to have any consideration or to take any consideration on passing funds to them, we need to have updated financials and or report from them before we would gather consideration.
And I tie that directly to Commissioner Wincher's comment too then, so, yeah, acknowledged.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Anything further?
Nope.
Matt?
That's it for me. I'll turn it over to Tabitha, or back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and Tabitha, I know we're going to start on August 20th. Are we going to go through September 2nd? So gentlemen, I would ask you to take a look at your calendars from August 20th through September 2nd. And unless somebody else wants to jump up and say, pick me, I'll start off. The 21st, excuse me. Yeah, on the 21st of August, 8 o'clock in the morning, the Emergency Communications Network is going to have a communications exercise. It's going to start Monday morning. It's going to be held at Camp Ripley and the fairgrounds here in Little Falls. They're going to, I don't know what they're going to do. They're having a communication exercise. It's kind of a big deal. It's going to go for 3 days. It's going to go through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I really don't know what my participation is. I've been asked to participate in one form or another, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to, but that's neither here nor there. It starts at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. At 4:30 that same afternoon, Good Neighbors EMS meets, and Good Neighbors EMS is going to be meeting at St. Gabriel's Hospital, 4:30 in the afternoon. On the 22nd, again, ECN is continuing their communications exercise at Camp Ripley and at the fairgrounds. 8:30 that morning, we have a planning committee meeting scheduled, and right after that planning committee meeting, we have a budget committee meeting. At 4:30 in the afternoon, there's an opioid presentation that's going to be held. Matt just got done talking about that. That's going to be at the Initiative Foundation. Formerly it was at the boardroom, but will be at the Initiative Foundation. At 6 o'clock that evening, Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meets here in the boardroom. On the 23rd, the ECN communication exercise will conclude. And at 11 o'clock that morning, Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Executive Committee is scheduled to meet. That should be a virtual meeting. On the 24th, at 12:30 in the afternoon, the State Emergency Communications Board meets. That will be, as far as I know, virtual. On the let's see, that takes me through there. On the 29th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, the county board meets here in the county boardroom. On the 30th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, Morrison County Soil or maybe it's 8 o'clock in the morning, I don't remember the time. 9 o'clock in the morning, Morrison County Soil and Water Tour gets kicked off.
If I may interrupt you on that one?
Feel free.
Chair.
When is it?
I just got a contact from Soil and Water, and they want to make sure that the county commissioners are gonna be attending that, because they want to do a head count.
We need an
So
RSVP.
we need an RSVP. I will not, I have another commitment, but again, they're asking if any commissioners are interested, that they get a hold of Shannon over at Soil and Water.
Just get a hold of Shannon, tell her you can or you can't come.
Yep.
I've already taken care of that. I will not be attending that.
And she said could be commissioners attending. No, I don't know if there is, but again, that's between, we have two of us that can't attend, but you three can decide what you want to do, so.
Okay? And then on September 1st, at 8:30 in the morning, we've got a TSWAC meeting. That's at the landfill. I will not be attending that. And that is all I have. Commissioner Wincher, I'm going to turn things over to you.
All right. Again, there's no Great River meeting this month. On Thursday, the 24th, I have a TCC here in Little Falls at 5:30. On the 30th, again, the Soil and Water, they normally have a meeting on the 30th, which is Wednesday, but again, they're gonna be having that tour bus. Again, it usually lasts probably 3 or 4 hours. They leave from Soil and Water, and then they go look at all the different projects that they had throughout the last year or two, so. Otherwise, that takes care of me.
Commissioner Lemire.
23rd, HRA, 9 o'clock at HRA. 26th is the Lake Shamana Lake Improvement District Annual Meeting. It's virtual, 9 o'clock. And Jeff got the rest.
Okay, Commissioner Blaine.
On the 24th, Region 5 Economic Development Commission meets at 6 o'clock at Sourcewell.
That's it?
I believe that's it.
Commissioner Casper.
I just have August 25th, that Friday, at 9 o'clock, Mississippi Headwater Board up at Walker, Minnesota, the courthouse.
Commissioner Zelinski.
Yep.
Mr. Chair. TSWAC on the 1st, did I miss that?
September 1st,
8:30 at.
8:30 at TSWAC at the landfill.
So bring your cardboard.
Yep.
Yeah,
Make your trip worthwhile.
Yep, exactly. And then,
And if you have any glass, you can bring that too for recycling.
and so our September board meeting dates will be the 12th and the 26th with planning sessions on the 5th and 19th. Is that correct, Ms. Tabitha?
That's correct. That's correct. It's right. It's correct. That's correct.
5th and 19th for planning, 12th and 26th.
Yes, yep.
Anything further? Matt, anything further?
No, Mr. Chair.
Tabitha? Excellent. Gentlemen, it's 9:54. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The end of
thought I
They'll
caught
be
you
out in the middle of somewhere.
Middle of Hayfield.